Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Benji-Sales live chat. It's so good to be back. It's so good to see everybody. How are you doing today? I am glad to be back. I am glad to be here. We've got some topics that we can talk about today. It hasn't been a crazy news week, to be honest. You know, last week was such a good news week that we ended up having 2 chats in the same week. This week definitely was not one of those. It's been fairly slow. There's been a few interesting things to talk about, but it hasn't been like any big, crazy, groundbreaking stories. But there's a few interesting things that we can discuss. 2 quick housekeeping notes off of the top. First of all, guys, I recommend if you are ever near a ladder or on a ladder, be very careful, because at work yesterday, I fell off the top of a ladder, jacked up my elbow, jacked up my knee. Could have been way worse, but to be honest, still kind of sucked. So be very careful on ladders, guys. That's my PSA message of safety for today. Be very, very careful on ladders. My knee and elbow are super jacked up. So that is the first housekeeping note off of the top. The second housekeeping note off of the top that we're going to discuss today is I have turned on channel memberships. So channel memberships are now live. That's right. You can now join. It should be an option. Might even be up on this video, or it might be on the home screen. I'm not entirely sure. I literally just turned them on today. So people are always asking me, Benji, how can we help support you? Benji, we want a Patreon. Benji, we want, some ways to help you out. And I've always shied away from the whole Patreon thing, because that's, to me, if I'm ever going to start a Patreon, it needs to be like a big commitment. Like I'm going to do a whole bunch more stuff than just a, generic thing. But I turned on YouTube memberships, so they are now live. And there's a couple reasons you might want to join it. As always, just like with Super Chats, don't feel pressured or obligated to become a channel member. But the main benefits to you, I just did the generic, like YouTube has a whenever you turn on memberships, they have like a couple presets. They have like, if you have a 1 tier, go this way. If you have a 2 tier or a 3 tier, I just did the 1 tier. I did it the exact basic setup that they already have outlined. It's $4.99 a month. And the main things that you get from it, you'll get a membership badge where people in chat will be able to see. I'll be able to see. It'll say how long that you've been a member and all of that good stuff. It gives you, I believe, 1 membership chat per month. Like once you hit the next milestone for your monthly membership, that alerts me just like a super chat, I believe is how it works. Again, I am new to this, so we're going to be experiencing this at the same time. But basically think of it as once a month, you're basically paying a $4.99 super chat. It'll alert me and I'll get to it exactly the same way as I do super chats in these chats. And then also the third thing is that I'm probably, the weeks that we do 2 chats in a week, because I'm going to start trying to do those on weeks where we have big breaking news. I'm thinking one of those streams will be a members only chat. Now it'll still be public for anyone. Anyone can watch it. Anyone can even watch it live, but I'll probably only be taking member questions on, we'll have the normal towards the end of the week, just completely, hey, this is open to anyone, free questions, super chats, whatever. But the weeks that we do it 2, probably that first one, which will just be about some breaking news, it'll be members only that can ask questions on it. So we're going to just test this out, see how it goes. Like I said, people have been asking for a long time, how can we support your work? This is the best way, like in terms of financial. The number one, because there's not going to be a Patreon anytime soon, if you are one of those people that has been asking me, hey Benji, how can we help? This is the way to do it. Become a channel member. But as always, just like with Super Chats, don't feel pressured, don't feel obligated, nothing like that. If you do become a member during a live stream, I will give you a shout out. And if it goes over well, if it starts being like super popular and we get a decent amount of members, who knows? Maybe in the future I'll do higher tiers and we can do like some more fun stuff with it. But for now, I'm just going with the basics. And we actually have a membership right off the bat. So thank you. The first member, Highlander001, has become the very first member. Thank you so much, Highlander. That is awesome to see, dude. Thank you so much. So we've got your first one. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate that. First member of the channel goes to Highlander. All right, guys. So thanks. So what are the topics that we can talk about off of the top? Well, there is a couple. Like I said, not the craziest news week, but there's still a few things worth discussing. Probably the biggest one in terms of like what I've tweeted about and what's, kind of blown up is this new report from Insider Gaming coming from Tom Henderson and Insider Gaming about Sony apparently is making a new handheld, and it is codenamed the Q Lite. Now, this is being met, I'll be honest, pretty negatively online, and the main reason it's being received pretty negatively, I think, is for this reason. The first overall bullet point is that it is remote play only. You have to have a PlayStation 5 in order to use this thing. It's remote play only, and you got to own a PS5. No cloud streaming, it sounds like, at least off the top. So this isn't like xCloud where, you're streaming. Doesn't matter really if you own an Xbox or whatever. You have to own a PS5, remote play only. It's going to be 1080p 60 FPS streaming, which is actually pretty good for a handheld. It doesn't need to be 4K on a handheld, so the resolution to me is not a big deal. 1080p sounds kind of low. That is low if you're on like a big giant 65 or 75 inch TV screen, but on a handheld, 1080p is plenty fine. That's going to look great on a handheld size screen. And then the prototype has an 8-inch screen, which is very large for a handheld, and it has adaptive triggers with haptic feedback. The other part of this report is that the plan is to launch it before the PlayStation 5 Pro, because Henderson is continuing to double down, saying PlayStation 5 Pro is in development and it is coming. And it sounds like, according to him, the plan is still for PS5 Pro to be holiday of 2024. So he's saying this is sooner. So this is going to be supposedly, if it does release, before holiday of 2024. So we can talk about that if you guys want, if it's going to be successful, if Sony's kind of losing it going with this method or what. The other big topic is one that is just breaking today. Super Mario movie has started blowing up worldwide. This isn't a surprise to me. I said a long time ago whenever I first saw the trailer, I think there's a good shot this movie is going to make $1 billion. And the opening day is pointing towards we might be headed exactly there. So a huge opening day worldwide, 34.5 million for international audiences, 31.7 million for domestic, and 66.2 million worldwide opening day. Over $66 million, and it's just its first day. And guys, this is especially impressive for a couple reasons. So the first reason that this is impressive is that this was a Wednesday release. It's not like the opening day is on a Friday. Friday is always going to be inflated compared to a Wednesday because it's going into the weekend. A lot of people are going to be off the next day. They'll see movies late at night, whatever. So this is a Wednesday opening, so that's especially impressive to be putting up those kinds of numbers on a Wednesday. And this is without previews. So a lot of times whenever you see the big Friday numbers that come out, that'll include what they call Thursday previews. That'll be like the show times that start at like 6 p.m. or whatever, or even 5. They keep pushing it earlier and earlier on Thursday night. So that'll get bundled into the Friday number. This is with no previews. So this is just straight Wednesday. So looking gigantic. They're now projecting that this thing over the 5-day weekend in just the domestic number, is going to do over 150. There's some crazy forecasts up there to 160s, 170s. It's an enormous opening. It's on track for. The other last thing before we start getting to your comments and questions that highlights how awesome this is. Critic scores were very harsh on this movie. It was at like 54% Rotten Tomatoes last time I checked from critics, but we have some amazing audience scores coming in. And first of all, on Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 96% audience score. Some people are like, they laugh at that. They're like, it's Rotten Tomatoes. It can be easily manipulated. That doesn't mean anything. And I'm somewhat on the same board. Not fully. Rotten Tomatoes has gotten more useful as it's become one of those things where it's verified. You have to verify through your ticket that you actually went and saw the movie. So you can't review bomb it or whatever, or review inflate it as easily as you used to. But the more important thing, and this is something that I've been telling people, when I've been talking to them in private, the thing that you wanted to look out for was the cinema score. So cinema score is something that is done in the United States. It's whenever audiences leave a theater, they will be waiting outside of select theaters polling audiences on opening nights and getting a feel. They'll ask them, how do you grade the movie? And while it might sound a little sketchy, hey, this is just random polling, it's actually incredibly accurate. Cinema score is literally considered the most accurate thing in the entire movie industry for judging an audience's reception. The studios consider that far more important than an IMDb score, far more important than a Rotten Tomatoes score, far more important than anything. They look at that cinema score. And that's because cinema score traditionally has a very high ratio between judging a film's legs. So for example, let's say you get a C cinema score, which is really bad, or even a B minus, which is considered pretty darn bad. That's like what you saw with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, by the way, which was a B minus, and it had terrible legs. Anything over an A, if you can hit an A minus, an A, or an A plus, that's a great score. And Mario's coming in with an A cinema score, not even an A minus, an A, which is a stellar cinema score. That usually points to great legs. So it's looking like this thing's going to have a massive opening day, opening weekend, and with this A cinema score, we're probably looking at great legs. 1 billion could be coming. All right, guys. So that is it in terms of topics off of the top. And that's cool now. Highlander has a special highlighted name for being a member. Very cool. I am the first in something, Highlander says. Yes, very, very cool, man. Thanks for becoming the first member for the channel. All right, we do have a super chat kicking us off here. Big Fresh 37 with a 199 super chat saying, Wild Hearts, were EA and Omega Force happy? Big Fresh, I don't believe so. You know, I don't have a ton of data behind the scenes on this other than charts that are out in the open. If you look at its NPD performance, I talked about that, I believe last week was when NPD came out. Pretty weak in my opinion. I think it came in at number 10, is that right? Or something like that, number 8. Okay, yeah, it came in at number 8 in NPD. The UK numbers didn't look great, and 8 in NPD for its launch month is pretty bad because every game that was ahead of it besides Hogwarts Legacy was not a new release. So it's not like it was number 8 and there was, 6 new releases in front of it that were all huge. It was number 8, and the only one that was ahead of it was Hogwarts Legacy. Everything else that was ahead of it, Elden Ring, The Last of Us, FIFA, Madden, Dead Space, Call of Duty, these are all older releases. So the UK numbers did not look good, the Europe numbers did not look good, and the US numbers also do not look good. So I do not believe that this is actually a success. Hate to say that. I hope it becomes super successful. You guys know I'm always rooting for games to succeed, but I would say Big Fresh 37, as of now, I'm not going to say it's like an outright bomb. A bomb would have been completely missing the NPD charts. You know what I mean? I'm not going as far as to say this is a colossal bomb, but it also, to me, doesn't really look like a huge success either. So I think it's probably safe to say, as of now, fairly disappointing. I could be wrong. Maybe they're going to come out with some numbers that, blow us away, and we're like, wow, this game did so much better than we expected. But at least the charts that we can see, there's no real evidence to think that Wild Hearts was like this hugely successful title. So I know a lot of people actually do like it. It has some performance issues, but I know a lot of people that played it liked it. Maybe this is a game we'll see leg decently well when it's down in like that $30 range or whatever. It's also, of course, going to come to Game Pass at some point because this is an EA title and all EA access or whatever that's called is rolled into Game Pass. So I'm sure we're going to see a huge boost in players once this goes to Game Pass. But yeah, Big Fresh 37 overall, I would say Wild Hearts doesn't look like it was like this hugely successful thing either. We have our second member to the channel. Thank you so much, man. Split End 89 becomes the second member to the channel. Thanks so much, buddy. So great of you to do that. You always help mod the channel. You're a great friend. Thanks for becoming the second member of the channel, Split End 89. I appreciate it, buddy. Thank you so much. All right, and super chats are cleared. Let's get to your free questions. Dior Amaro, hi Benji, 2 questions, one about Destiny and one about Sony and the consolidation. 1, Destiny 2 yesterday, there were some stats saying that Destiny 2 PvP has 800,000 players approximately. Destiny 2 PvE has 1.1 million players. Even if they put those numbers as many of the people or as many of the PvP and PvE players play each mode instead of 2 million players, it could be 1.1 million PvE and PvP players in total playing Destiny. The stats said those were only for yesterday, 2 days ago. So each day, more than 1 million players are playing Destiny in console and PC. Destiny 2 is huge. By example, WoW is 2.4 million players each day. Thoughts on Bungie having a franchise for 10 years doing this kind of numbers in comparison to WoW? That is like 20 years, and Destiny's already having half their numbers. Yeah, it's incredible. You know, I talk about this all the time. Bungie and what they've done with Destiny is one of the most shining examples of a games as a service success that we've seen in the industry. You know, there's always, especially lately, these debates about how games as a services are, you know, really underperforming. There is quite a few that are. There's a lot of discussion both in the industry and with players. You know, is games as a service one of these sorts of things that can continue to be successful? I've talked about how, before on here, I kind of feel like right now, not necessarily in the past, but right now, you know, there used to be this big feeling within the industry. I'm not saying players, like, you know, suits and executives, that single player was extremely risky, right? And everyone was trying to go on multiplayer. You guys know what I'm talking about. You remember that when like every single player game felt like it had this tacked on multiplayer mode. It felt like this was just being forced across the board. And I think that has actually completely reversed. I think that big games as a service games nowadays are actually way more risky than single player games. I honestly think so. Because these big multiplayer games are not cheap, guys. They're not cheap at all. They're actually extremely expensive. And at times, these games as a service games can actually be more expensive than the single player games because you got to make all this content. You got to have all these servers ready. You have to have a ton of people working on it, not for a couple years and then shipping it and going to something else. You have all these people that you're planning on doing this for, 5 years, 10 years, whatever. And we're seeing a lot of them across the board start to kind of, not do so great. Now, it doesn't mean you can't have successes, and as you're pointing out, Dior Amaro, this is a prime example. Destiny. What Bungie has done is incredible. The game is still extremely healthy. This new expansion is, I think, what is it called? Lightfall is the most successful one they've ever had. They put out some stats and said how this was like the most played expansion at launch ever, even over the Witch Queen, the most returning and new players ever. It's absolutely incredible. It's going to be really interesting to see if Bungie can repeat this with their next new IP. I think there's a chance that they reveal that game this year. Now, I'm doubtful it's coming out this year. I think if it was coming out this year, we would have probably had some more indications of that. But I think, we know that this new IP has been in development at Bungie for quite some time. I think there's a chance that they at least reveal it. And, Destiny still has years of life ahead of it. This thing could be going for another 10 years. It's hard to say. But very, very many years still ahead of it. And Dior, it's going to be fascinating to see if Bungie can prove that it's not just a one-off with Destiny, but in this very competitive, very difficult games as a service space. If they can repeat that twice, if they come out and their next one, this new IP is just as successful as Destiny, or even if it's not as successful as Destiny, because Destiny is a very high bar, if they can accomplish 70% with their new IP, what they accomplished with Destiny, you're going to have to really start talking about Bungie as an industry leader in this games as a service multiplayer type stuff. So yeah, it's really interesting, Dior, and pretty incredible. I think that Split End gifted 5 memberships. Wow, everyone, shout out to Split End 89 gifting 5 memberships. Ken B got a membership from this. Sam Rochter got a membership. Jacob Novick, Joseki, and Leonard Herrera, they all got memberships from Split End. Everyone, hey, give Split End some thanks in the chat. Dude, that is so kind of you. 5 gifted memberships from Split End. That's incredibly kind. Incredibly kind of you, dude. I hope you guys can, Sam, Jacob, Joseki, enjoy those memberships. That's super, super cool. That is awesome. Awesome to see, guys. That is so cool of you, Split End. Very kind of you, buddy. You're amazing. All right, I think we had a super chat drop. Carlos Alvarado here with a $1.99 super chat. Benji, anything on Xbox/Ubisoft Plus subscription? Well, there is a leak that came out from someone that has been very accurate on Ubisoft leaks lately, and they said that, man, I can't remember the exact date, but they said it's coming soon. So the answer to that, Carlos, I don't have this as personal information, but what I saw, this person leaked a bunch of stuff about the Avatar game and a whole bunch of other stuff. They said it's soon. Let's see if I can find it. That might be kind of hard to find right now because I don't follow this person, but I know this person's accurate because of the stuff that they leaked about Avatar. But it's going to be hard to find this. Yeah, I hate to say it. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe someone in chat. Oh, Highlander, I missed your super chat. I'll get to it, buddy. Sorry. Maybe someone in chat knows exactly what I'm talking about, but this did just recently leak, and I am not sure the date they said, but they said soon. It's in the next couple months, is supposedly when this is hitting. If this was just a random, person, I normally wouldn't put much stock into it because you can never tell with random Twitter insiders, but this person clearly proved they know a lot of stuff about Ubisoft because they leaked screenshots of the new Avatar game, product descriptions about it, a ton of stuff. So they clearly have some sort of connection at Ubisoft. And they did say it's coming soon, Carlos, but I can't remember exactly when they said. And then Highlander had a super chat that I missed with a 5 super chat. Hey, Benji, hope you are doing great. Your thoughts on Jim Ryan's statement to the CMA? I really think there's more to Call of Duty on PlayStation. So yeah, let me get you guys this exact quote because it is pretty spicy. Let me find this exact quote. So Jim Ryan's response, it just became public today, but it was actually dropped a little bit ago. And basically, he's responding to the CMA siding with Microsoft in regards to Call of Duty. Now, keep in mind, CMA has still not passed this deal. We've talked about this a bunch, about how all signs are now pointing towards they are going to pass this, but it's not locked in stone. It looks like it's going to happen, but it's not locked in. And for a while there, it was actually looking the opposite. It was looking like the CMA was very strong chance of blocking. And this clearly caught Jim Ryan off guard. I don't think Jim Ryan was expecting this. Let me find you guys the direct quote. Let me find it, because it is pretty interesting. All right. Here we go. So here's what he said. Any degradation in the price, performance, or quality of play on PlayStation or any delays on release would quickly harm SIE's reputation and cause a loss of engagement in players. As SIE CEOs Jim Ryan... Oh, no, wait, that's not it. Come on. That's not the one I'm looking for. I'm looking for the one where he's basically saying their business is doomed. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, that was the first part of it. So here's the full quote. Any degradation in the price, performance, or quality of play on PlayStation or any delays on release would quickly harm SIE's reputation and cause of a loss of engagement and of players. As SIE CEO Jim Ryan explained to the CMA, if PlayStation received a degraded version of Call of Duty, it would seriously damage our reputation. Our gamers would desert our platform in droves. And network effects would exacerbate the problem. Our business would never recover. Never recover, guys. PlayStation would be done. Okay, so I've talked on this chat a bunch about how I mostly think Jim Ryan is doing what he should be doing. It's very easy to make fun of Jim Ryan because he is making inflammatory statements. And don't worry, guys, I'm going to come back in a second because I do think this is ridiculous what he's saying. But the overall perspective, right? Because I've seen some people say online, why is he even fighting this? Jim should just let this go. And I won't spend long on this because we've said it a bunch on the chat. And I've said on here a lot, Jim Ryan's doing what he has to do. This is his job. It's in Sony's best interest for this to get blocked. So I would actually have been disappointed in Jim Ryan from a business perspective, right? From a business and leadership perspective. I would have been disappointed in Jim Ryan if he just said, hey, you know what? instantly, Xbox, you can have them. No, his job is to fight this because it's in Sony's best interest if Microsoft can't get Activision. So there's me defending Jim Ryan a bit, saying, hey, dude, he's just doing the job that he has to do. On the flip side, come on. These statements are actually ridiculous. First of all, there's no reason to think that Microsoft would purposely sabotage Call of Duty. Have they sabotaged Minecraft? No. Right? Minecraft is still supported. In fact, they're even putting new Minecraft games on PlayStation. Minecraft Legends is coming to PlayStation. They don't have to do that. They own Minecraft. Like, if Microsoft wanted to, keep the Minecraft IP completely to themselves, they could have skipped that with this. It makes sense that Minecraft stayed on PlayStation since it was already released even before the acquisition. But in terms of Minecraft Legends, this is them choosing to do that. They have no obligation to ship that game on PlayStation, and yet they're still going to. And there's no indications they're sabotaging it. There's no reason to think that they're going to sabotage Call of Duty. So these statements from Jim Ryan, to me, I get fighting the CMA and fighting Microsoft over this. I do get that because that is their job. But this is the kind of stuff where it's like you're taking things too far. This is not going to happen. Yes, there's a what if situation. There's a slight potential, but there's also a slight potential a meteor could crash through this room and hit me in the head right now. The odds are not great that's going to happen, right? And the odds are that Microsoft is not going to purposely sabotage a game they release on the platform because not only, Jim Ryan here is talking about how this is going to harm Sony's reputation. How much would that harm Microsoft and the Call of Duty developers' reputations if they're just releasing botched ports of the game on platforms, right? Because there's still going to be millions and millions of PlayStation Call of Duty players. The backlash would be immense if they did that. So, my thoughts on this, Highlander, are, yeah, Jim Ryan is doing his job, but he's also taking things too far. We did have a new member. Thank you, guys. The memberships, I'm very, very happy to this. Memberships are coming in pretty good today. We've got IcePick 1878 is a new supporter. Thank you so much, IcePick. Thank you for becoming a member of the channel. I appreciate it so much. Very cool to see these channel members coming in. That is very awesome. Very kind of you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you so, so, so much. And yeah, that is my thoughts there on that, Highlander. I think these statements are a little crazy, to be honest. A little crazy. There's no indication that Microsoft would do this. There's no reason to assume they would. So yeah, I get fighting on it, but maybe you don't need to take it to that extreme. Anthony Knight with a super chat, or Anthony Johnson, from Mercenary Knight Publishing. Thank you so much, Anthony Johnson, with a 5 super chat. What do you think of the Square Enix and Xbox Cold War? Yeah, this is pretty interesting. Is Square Enix preparing for a Sony acquisition, or are niche Square Enix titles not worth porting to Xbox? I kind of have a couple mixed thoughts on this, Anthony. On one hand, I do think a part of it truly is just they don't think it's financially worth putting some of these games on Xbox. Some of these games, especially these smaller ones, they're probably going to sell very low volumes on Xbox, right? We see big RPGs even sell low volumes on Xbox compared to other platforms, right? I'm not saying they sell 0 copies, but if you see traditional Final Fantasy games that have come over to Xbox, or even Kingdom Hearts, for example, Kingdom Hearts 3 that come over to Xbox. It's not that they sell no copies, but even these big RPGs from Square Enix are selling very low volumes on Xbox compared to PlayStation or even PC whenever they come to PC. So on one hand, if your budget is already small and you already have a somewhat small dev team, I can understand. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I'm saying I can understand why some of these smaller projects Square Enix would just skip Xbox because it's less work for them. And if they don't think they're going to get a return on that investment, I can somewhat understand it. On the flip side, though, it is becoming very aggressive how much they're skipping Xbox. It is nearly everything now. I know that they just had Crisis Core released last year on Xbox, but I believe the current stat, and I would have to double check this, but it's something I've seen floating around a lot, and I can't recall one myself either, is that currently Square Enix has 0 announced Xbox games for 2023. They don't have a single game announced for Xbox in 2023. That doesn't mean that there's not one gonna come, but as of now, I believe there's not a single one for the year. This is pretty shocking. You don't see this from any other major publisher in the world right now, to be honest with you. And major one. I'm not talking about small, indie or like really Japanese focused small publishers. All of the major publishers, if you're looking at Capcom, if you're looking at EA, if you're looking at Ubisoft, Activision, whatever, all of the big players, Embracer, Focus Entertainment, like all of them. They all have games coming for Xbox. Square Enix is currently the only major publisher that doesn't have a single Xbox game announced for the year. That's pretty shocking, right? That's pretty shocking. So part of me understands it, and part of me, Anthony, I do keep wondering if Sony's going to try and buy Square Enix. I've been telling you guys for a long time, I don't think that that's that crazy. Square Enix's market cap isn't super high. There's always the argument, does Square Enix have a lot of stuff that Sony wouldn't want to deal with? Because Square Enix doesn't just make games. They have a whole bunch of merchandising and other stuff like that. But there's the argument that Sony could use those arms actually in their advantage and get involved in some of those businesses more with their own PlayStation stuff and use some of Square Enix's strengths in those departments to aid them in that. So I don't consider Sony trying to buy Square Enix as like a lock. In fact, I don't even weigh it over 50%. I would go under 50% odds they try it. But I also am not one of these people that thinks it's impossible. I think there's a legitimate chance that Sony might. Sony has a lot of money set aside for acquisitions right now still. I've been telling you guys for a long time, I think they're going to go for someone bigger than Bungie soon. And Square Enix, man, it wouldn't surprise me. Anthony, it would not surprise me if you see Sony try and go for them. It's going to be easier for Sony to acquire Square Enix than it is anyone in the West, right? You always keep seeing people be like, Microsoft should buy Sega, and Microsoft should buy Capcom, and Microsoft should buy, et cetera, et cetera. It is not true that it is impossible for a Western company to buy a Japanese company, because you do see that floated around sometimes. Like, they just can't do it. If they're in Japan, a Western company can't buy them. That's not true. A Western company can acquire Japanese companies. However, the laws do make it extremely difficult. I believe part of the wording is that like the company has to be like somewhat in trouble, right? Like you're kind of bailing the company out by an acquisition. I don't think you can make that argument really for Sega, Capcom, Square Enix, anything like that. So Microsoft getting a big publisher out of Japan seems almost impossible. However, Sony, they're still in Japan. Like that is still their headquarters. They're still technically a Japanese company. Still not going to say it's easy for them to buy Square Enix. They'd probably have to pay a lot of money. But it's not impossible. I could see it happening. But it is an interesting situation that we're seeing. And really, it's the only publisher in the industry that's like this. That's essentially right now choosing to completely skip the Xbox platform. Pretty shocking stuff. We had another gifted membership here from Ken B, gifting a membership. Going to Heavy Shadow Sound. Very cool. Very cool. Ken B, thank you so much. Congrats, Heavy Shadow Sound, for getting the membership. We'll definitely do a members only chat at some point in the next couple weeks. So all of you guys that are getting memberships right now, whether you're joining or whether you're getting gifted memberships, you guys will be able to ask questions on that members only chat. Again, that'll be live for everyone to stream. So anyone can pop in and watch it. But it's only going to be members asking questions. And very cool. All of you guys, I'll announce that ahead of time. That way there's more notice, because I know a lot of these streams, I just announce it like an hour before I go live. The members only one, since this is something you're either paying for or getting gifted, I'll announce that like a full day before when we're going to go live. So you guys will be prepared, even if you can't be there live, to drop your question in. We'll do that sometime in the next 2 weeks. But thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys. And you guys that are getting gifted memberships, you will be able to ask questions in chat as well. So it's not just the people that are doing it, but all these gifted memberships too. Thank you so much, guys. Very cool to see some of you guys paying that forward. That's awesome. To other members of the community. All right, Johnny G22 here. What's up, Benji? Hope all is well, brother. Do you think it's worth getting a PlayStation/Xbox upgraded console in the future, like an Xbox Series X Pro? I just got my Series X. Well, Johnny G, we're going to have to see what these consoles look like. We know, well, when we say we know, I'm considering it no, because I consider Tom Henderson trustworthy enough source on this. However, it's not confirmed, but it is looking extremely likely. PS5 Pro, at least, is very real. Now, an Xbox, mid-gen console, there's no indication of that yet. However, I do think it is worth noting that Phil Spencer himself mentioned quite a while back, I believe it was over a year ago now, it might have even been 2 years ago, Phil Spencer himself said that the next Xbox is already in development. It's already in development. Now, could that have meant a next-gen Xbox? Sure, could have been. Or was Phil, talking about a mid-gen refresh? You'd have to go find that direct quote, but he did say that. It was, I believe someone was asking him about like if Xbox still is going to make hardware in the future. Because that's always a debate. Every gen you see this, literally every gen for the last 2 or 3 gens. You see people be like, is this the last one? Is this the end of consoles? Now is it all going to be streaming the next gen? Or is it going to just be, mobile or whatever? Like, I'm telling you, ever since really like the end of the 360 PS3 gen, going into PS4 and Xbox One, and now going into this gen, you keep seeing all these doom and glooms like, are consoles viable for another gen? And I believe he was being asked about that. And Phil said, yeah, we're already working on the next Xbox. You'd have to find the quote. It might have been to IGN. Who knows? But I do remember him specifically saying this. Very well could have been a mid-gen refresh. Won't shock me at all, especially if PS5 Pro really does end up being real. Microsoft will know that. They might not know the exact spec of a PS5 Pro, but Microsoft isn't going to want to be caught off guard with no sort of response, especially, let's say, a PS5 Pro potentially, let's say it's successful. Let's say it does well. That would not be great for Microsoft to now be losing the power gap in probably what would be a pretty big way by then, right? Whatever this mid-gen refresh, it would probably be quite a bit more powerful than a Series X. I'm not saying a full gen jump, but it's going to be pretty good. And Microsoft, we know with One X and Series X, they are really on this power bandwagon. So is it going to be worth it to you, Johnny G? It all depends. I don't expect these mid-gen refreshes to be like a generational leap. So what I'm expecting is you're going to see way more games being able to hit a rock solid 60 FPS, because we're already seeing a lot of games either struggle to hit 60 FPS, or if they do have, let's say, 60 FPS modes, a really big degradation in resolution. Now, that's not across the board. There's some that have great 1440p 60 FPS modes, which I think 1440p is fine for a console in 60 FPS. But we're seeing some games that in their 60 FPS mode can't even hit 1440p, right? Not natively. They're actually internally rendering as low as like 1080p 60 FPS. So I think what you'll see, Johnny G, with these is a lot more 60 FPS options. And I expect the other main gap, like jump, is going to be resolution. Not resolution, I mean ray tracing. So, Johnny, are those things important to you? Do you want to make sure that you have even more games hitting 60 FPS? And if they are hitting 60 FPS at higher resolutions than we're seeing some of these games ship at? And do you want to see a big boost probably in ray tracing performance? I think those are going to be like the two main sells of the mid-gen refreshes. I don't think it's going to be, oh, these graphics are like a giant leap and the visuals are mind-blowingly more powerful and the GPU is 3 times. I don't think it's going to be like stuff like that. I think it's going to be, hey, all these unlocked modes you're seeing, right? You see a ton of games shipping right now, just unlocked frame rate modes, and they're like 45 FPS or whatever. You'll see a ton of more of those hitting locked 60. And ray tracing, I think, is going to get a big boost. So just depends if you think those are worth it or not. Some people will think it's worth it, some not, but that's my thoughts at least on this. I don't think we're going to see a crazy jump, but some pretty cool stuff. I think we had a 10 super chat hit. We did. Mr. Real Shane dropping a 10 super chat. Thank you so much, Mr. Real Shane. I bought PS5 recently, and I bought GTA 5, Last of Us, Red Dead Redemption 2, RE4. They just don't seem like games to me. You get told what to do practically. There's a cutscene and it repeats. Am I missing something? It just depends what you want out of a game. I personally love every single game that you just listed. But they are definitely narrative-heavy games. Now, something like GTA 5 or Red Dead Redemption 2, those have a lot of open-ended gameplay. So those you could like not even follow the story at all and kind of do all sorts of stuff in. So, Mr. Real Shane, I would say those games, if you're playing them fairly linearly, like you're just following the story path, I could definitely see how you would come to that conclusion, because there's a lot of cutscenes in both those games. RE4 is definitely a lot more linear, same with The Last of Us. I don't think you're necessarily missing something, but it sounds like you like more open-ended gameplay type games, and it might not be that super story-heavy focused games are your cup of tea. There's nothing wrong with that. Everyone's going to have completely different tastes. In fact, Mr. Real Shane, you're actually not alone on that. I see a lot of people that for example, aren't the biggest PlayStation first party fans. I know PlayStation first party gets extremely high reviews, and I am one of those people that loves their games as well. But there are some people that do not feel that way. There's some people that feel like PlayStation games are too linear in general, and they do maybe not have as much gameplay focus. Not that, again, I'm someone that loves their games, but I know some people, I would say especially like Nintendo fans, for example. I know a lot of Nintendo fans, first party Nintendo fans, that aren't crazy about PlayStation games. And that to me kind of makes sense because they're very different. Like if you look at Nintendo, how they view games, and if you look at PlayStation and how they view games, it's a pretty giant gap. Sony is very story heavy, very graphics pushed to the limit heavy, and I do think they have good gameplay. But you look at Nintendo and it's all about gameplay, and everything else is just kind of wrapped around it, right? For the most part, Nintendo is very much a gameplay company. And it just sounds like maybe those sorts of experiences aren't for you, Mr. Real Shane. Nothing wrong with that. You're not missing anything. It just might not be towards your tastes. You know what I mean? Thank you for the super chat. Highlander001 with a 5 super chat. Looking at the financial outcome for the coming year, I do not see after ABK any large acquisition from anyone. Am I wrong? Sony's going to. I really think Sony's going to. They actually have a set budget that they need to spend soon. So, outside of Sony, I agree. I don't think you're going to see Microsoft after ABK do any major acquisitions. You might see Microsoft snag like one studio or two small studios, like a studio level acquisition. I don't even think those would be huge studios, by the way. We're talking smaller studios, kind of like what they did with Ninja Theory, what they did with Obsidian and some of these other teams, you know what I mean, where it's just like a smaller independent studio. Maybe you see Microsoft after ABK passes do one or two of those for an area they feel like they need it, like a Japanese studio. Like I said, I think it'd be very hard for Microsoft to get a Japanese publisher, but I think they could probably find a way to get a Japanese studio. So maybe they do that. Maybe they get another support studio for Halo to buy. We know that Creative Assembly, I think is their name. That seems like a prime target acquisition for them. But I don't think you see anyone big. And Nintendo, they just don't really do that sort of thing. They buy studios sometimes, but they don't do any crazy giant ones. And I do think Sony's going to, though, Highlander. They have a lot of money set aside, billions of dollars for acquisitions, and they have a deadline of when they're supposed to spend it by. So I do think you'll see Sony buy someone, yeah. I don't know if that's going to be Square Enix. I don't know who it's going to be. I think the only reason you haven't seen Sony buy anyone of note lately is because of this ABK deal, and they're fighting it. But once that goes through, like it's done, like there's no way to fight it anymore, I think you'll instantly see Sony make a big purchase. And when I say instantly, I don't mean the next day, but sometime in the coming months after that, I think they do. So outside of them, though, I don't expect it. I expect only Sony to have a big acquisition in, let's say, the next 12 months. All right, super chats are cleared. Cameron Swear, Benji, definitely want your take on Mario movie's performance so far. And would a 150 million domestic 5-day be good? It would be colossal, Cameron. If this can hit 150 million domestic 5-day, that might be one of the biggest animated openings of all time, and it might be the biggest for Illumination. Let me double check Deadline's report on this, because I actually just did a breakdown on this. Let's see. Let me see, because I know... Because this thing is setting records all over the place, guys. Mexico. Here's an update from Deadline for you. Mexico, it's the largest debut ever for a Universal movie, which is crazy. And it's the second biggest animated opening ever in Mexico, only behind Toy Story 4. In the UK, best animated opening day ever. Biggest for 2023 and Universal's top Wednesday of all time. That's bigger than Fast 8 and No Time to Die. Crazy. China had the biggest Hollywood opening of the pandemic era in China. Germany, Universal's best opening day of all time. I mean, guys, we're seeing across the board. This is on a Wednesday. This thing is breaking records on a Wednesday. Cameron, if this does 150 million plus domestic on the 5-day, crazy. Because like I said, that A cinema score points to very strong legs. Very strong. I'm telling you, cinema score, there's a reason why so many studios pay attention to cinema score. They don't really on IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes for audience scores. Don't get me wrong. If they have very good ones, they'll highlight them. There's no doubt about it. But they don't make too many business decisions based off an RT score. However, a cinema score, no, the studios watch that very, very closely because there's literally been studies done on analyzing what's the average box office multiplier after opening weekend based off of a cinema score. And it's very accurate. Again, there's always going to be exceptions to the rule, but by and large, cinema score has a very strong correlation to a movie's legs. Very, very strong. Like I said, we just saw this with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, where it got a B-, which is the second worst Marvel score ever, and look at how bad the legs were. Very strong correlation. And this thing got an A cinema score. So if this hits 150 million on the 5-day, dude, we could see something crazy like a 500 million domestic number. Sounds crazy, but it's not impossible. If this gets a 3 times multiplier off a 150 mil domestic opening weekend, ooh, it could happen, which would be nuts. I'm not saying 500 million domestic's a lock, but if this really does a 150 million 5-day or higher, we could get a 500 million domestic and easily a 1+ billion worldwide. It's crazy. Mario Movies tracking is nuts. Timmer72299. Hi, Benji. Not sure if you saw my tweet, but according to Licensed Global Magazine, the Persona series grossed over 350 million revenue to date. Oh, I didn't see that. That's actually a great pull-up. How much do you see the next Persona game making? Well, I think the next one will definitely get... Let's see something. Let's do some math really quick. Will they charge $70? That's the question. Will they charge $70 for the next Persona? Let's just assume they do. I mean, it definitely, in my opinion, it'll definitely sell over 5 million units. Because Persona 5 is now up to what? What is that up to now? I know that cleared 5, but where is it at now? Persona 5 did 3.3 Royal plus, yeah, so it's over 8 million. Yeah, 8.3 million for Persona 5 series, though. Does that include the spin-offs? I can't remember if that included the spin-offs. It does. It does include the spin-offs. So here's what I'll say. Persona 6 is definitely going to do over 5 million units. Now, not all of those are going to be at full price. Who knows? Might even do 6 million. Who knows? We just need to see how it does. 5+ million's a lock, though, in my opinion. Some of those are probably going to be at $70. We don't know if they'll charge that, but more than likely, you know, we're seeing more and more games do that. Timmer, I would say 200 to 300 million for the next one. It's going to have a higher launch price than what Persona 5 did. It'll also probably sell more units at full price than Persona 5 did because you know, Persona 5 is really what blew that franchise up. Not that 3 and 4 weren't successful, but 5 is like what took that franchise to another level. So I think you're going to see way more front-loaded. Not that it won't have legs, but you're going to see way more people coming in day one. So I would say 200 to 300 million minimum. So if the whole Persona series is 350, you might look at Persona 6 alone doubling it, or pretty close. So expect a lot, yeah. I can't see it selling under 5 million. Again, not all of that will be full price. That's why I don't just say 5 million guarantees if it's all at 7 million. You know, if you just do the math of 5 million at $70, you get 350 million. Well, hold up. Not all of those 5 million sales will come at full price, more than likely. So, 200 to 300. Javier Culper, Benji, question here after this, and it could be higher. I mean, who knows? Maybe Persona 6 really blows up the franchise. It becomes a 10 million seller. But right now, I'm just saying if it sells like 5 to 6 million. Javier Culper, hi Benji, question here. After this acquisition goes fine, Activision, Microsoft, if this consolidation keeps going and going, I think Sony has two choices or stays a Nintendo-ish platform. People buying it for their exclusives or they completely change their growth model. I think those opinions of keep doing whatever you are doing, Sony, grow your studios, keep making single-player games, don't acquire. We'll put Sony in a Nintendo-ish mode of operating right. So the other choice is start grabbing studios. Sounds too fanboyish, but it is what it is, right? How do you think Sony will react? Well, we're seeing Sony push very aggressively into games as a service. So I think we're already past the point of saying Sony is just maintaining what they've done traditionally. I think that's already over. So things really changed under Jim Ryan's leadership. We already know they're all in on games as a service titles. We also know that they have bought a lot of studios, and I expect them to buy even more studios. I am very much against this idea that Sony's in all kinds of trouble because of Microsoft's acquisition spree. I'm like so against this idea. All we gotta do is look at hardware sales. PS5 is utterly annihilating Xbox Series in hardware sales right now monthly. It's not even close. It's a complete blowout. So I'm really not that worried about Sony's business. I know a lot of Sony fans are, and I know a lot of the somewhat more aggressive Xbox fans are, but I ain't worried about it. I think PlayStation is still going to be extremely successful for a very long time. You could argue that PlayStation is being run better than Xbox right now. Again, I'm not going to say that's a fact. We're all going to have different opinions. But even with this aggressive Microsoft, they're still getting annihilated in revenue for the whole gaming division and in hardware sales. Like, we haven't seen Microsoft come out ahead in any way, shape, or form yet, even with these acquisitions. Now, I'm not aggressively against Microsoft or Xbox either. I think that Xbox is setting themselves up for a lot of success in the future. Tons and tons of success. But you've seen Microsoft themselves say, even if they get ABK, they still think they'll be below Sony in total revenue. Like, people shouldn't be that worried about Sony, guys. There's a reason why a lot of people are arguing that this deal should go through, because Sony is so dominant. So I ain't that worried about Javier. I wouldn't panic. I think Sony and PlayStation's a very strong brand, and they'll continue to be. Now, I do think Microsoft's going to make things very competitive. And like I said, I think that they're setting themselves up for a ton of success in the future. I think hardware sales will be great for Xbox Series in the future. They're struggling right now, but I think they'll be great in the future once these games start hitting. I think they're going to make a ton of money off Call of Duty, a ton of money off of Game Pass, etc., etc. But in no way, shape, or form is Sony doomed or in trouble even. We have no indicators of it. None. Their hardware sales are exploding. Their first-party software sales are exploding. There's no reason to think they're in any trouble. Gamefire, Benji, do you think that the Sony handheld would be as hard to sell as the PSVR 2 with its low number of sales? Okay, yeah, let's start talking about this handheld, because it is pretty interesting. This to me seems like a really bad idea, unless they are... unless they're like going to sell this thing for cheap, and also like their expectations are super low, I can't see this taking off, if I'm being honest with you. This was a very interesting report because it's not even a cloud streaming device. I think it would be a struggle to be successful even if it was like remote play and cloud streaming. Like if it had both options, I would still be like, bit of a tough sell, I think, because the main advantage of a Steam Deck and a Switch, which are the two really successful handhelds we're seeing in the market right now, is they can natively play games. You can stream stuff and do remote play even on a Steam Deck, but like the main draw of a Steam Deck is not that. It's to install games, download games, play it natively. Same with the Switch. So even if this was cloud streaming and remote play, I'd be like, maybe they can sell some, but I don't think it'll be a huge hit. But, maybe it can be some cool niche product. It being only remote play, I just don't know who's going to buy it. You know what I mean? And I know there's going to be some people even in this chat that do want to buy it. But I just think as an overall market item, we're talking the niche of the niche. I think this thing would be very low seller unless it has some sort of crazy stuff that we don't know about that they're planning on it. Now, if this natively played games, and obviously natively playing PS5 games would be extremely unlikely, but let's say all PS4 games, right? If this played PS4 and back, right? Because we know that there's some classic games that are now on the PlayStation Store or whatever. If this was like it could play PS3 games, not PS3 maybe, but PS4 games natively, a bunch of the older games natively, and on top of that, it could do remote play and streaming of PS5 games. Now I'd be like, hey, I still don't think this is going to be a huge product, but you actually might get some people interested in that because a lot of PS4 games hold up great, especially if you were playing them portably. So, but it only being a remote play device, man, I just don't know who's going to buy it at large scale, right? We're talking millions of people. I just don't know who. I don't know who this is targeted towards. So we'll see, GameFire. I could be completely wrong. Maybe this has capabilities that we just don't know about. But if it's everything that's being reported right now, I expect this to be pretty unsuccessful unless it's very cheap or Sony just has very low expectations for this thing. But otherwise, it doesn't seem like a great idea to me. Make sure there was no super chats hitting. There is a super chat. Anthony Oakley with a $4.99 super chat. Thank you so much, Anthony Oakley. Jedi Survivor is looking like a Game of the Year contender. With this and the Dead Space remake success, EA's priority should be more single-player over multiplayer-only games. Well, I think EA is actually finding the right balance. I think EA right now is actually probably one of the best publishers in the industry of balancing both. Because you can't just say no to multiplayer games because as cool as these single player games are right now, none of them are making the sort of money that FIFA Ultimate Team is. Not even close. It ain't even, these games don't even scratch or touch what FIFA Ultimate Team is generating. And they also don't even scratch or touch what Apex Legends is generating for EA. So you definitely don't want to abandon multiplayer games if you are EA because literally the most successful things in your entire portfolio are multiplayer. But they are definitely finding a lot of success with single player lately. We talked about how Dead Space Remake looks like it did very well for them. The NPD performance for Dead Space Remake, in my opinion, for a horror game is great. If you look at the opening month for it and you look at the legs, looks like it did great. Jedi Fallen Order we know was a massive hit for them. And Jedi Survivor is looking like a Game of the Year contender, I agree. I think reviews are going to be very high for Jedi Survivor, by the way, guys. I think this might hit 90 Metacritic. If it doesn't hit 90 Metacritic, I think it'll be very close. I think this is a legit 88, 89, 90 Metacritic type game. And it's going to be a massive seller as well. So, I think that definitely EA is finding some success with single player. They need to keep doing that. And I think EA is actually one of, and I know it's easy to be mad at EA a lot because there are a lot of things they screw up, right? But if we're just looking at all the publishers in the industry right now, from third party, we'll say, EA might have the best balance. We know they've got a Dragon Age coming. We know they've got another Mass Effect game on the way. They just released Dead Space Remake, which is single player. They've got Jedi Survivor. Like, that's a lot of single player on the plate. Plus this Iron Man game that they have in development. So, I actually really admire EA's output right now. I think they're striking a very good balance. But you are right, they shouldn't just abandon single player, right? Because for a while, EA was one of those publishers who was very against single player. We talked earlier in this chat about how there was that belief in the industry for a while that single player games were so risky, and EA was one of those people. It is nice to see them come back around, and I would say EA is a good example right now of a good balance. You might not like their games or not, as an individual person, but if you just look at getting some single player stuff out and multiplayer, they're one of the better ones. Carlos Alvarado here with a $1.99 super chat. Anything on ROG Ally plus Xbox Game Pass partnership? Carlos, I actually don't know much about this, to be honest with you. I don't know a whole lot about it, so it's hard for me to... oh, yeah, that's that new handheld. Yeah. I did see that get announced. Yeah. Yeah, it's supposed to be pretty freaking cool, isn't it? Yeah, and it does support the Game Pass library. That's right. I kind of forgot about this thing. Yeah, it does look pretty freaking cool. Yeah, and it's Windows-based. Could be cool, man. This is one of those things I'm not going to go super bullish on until we see like how it would perform. But it is interesting. I definitely think that getting Game Pass into more handheld things is a smart idea. You know, we already see them doing that with streaming. And people might be like, Benji, how could you be in favor of this? But then you were just talking about how the Sony handheld, you know, is going to be a niche product. Well, that's because Microsoft isn't making this, right? This is another company, and Microsoft's just partnering with them on this. It's not Microsoft themselves putting this handheld out, because I'd be basically of the same opinion. I think this is going to be a niche product. So I'm not going in expecting that this is going to be some huge seller and completely change the industry, and Game Pass is going to be massively successful now because of it. So, could be cool. We are seeing what seems like the return of handhelds in a lot of ways. You know, Switch already kind of brought that about, and we've seen Steam Deck become very successful as well. So it looked for a while like there was just no such thing as a successful handheld really outside of what Nintendo could do with a 3DS. You saw the Vita really underperform. You saw Microsoft just not even really get in that space. And there was a lot of belief that like phones had killed the mobile handheld market except for Nintendo. I think we kind of are getting some proof that that's not true. You know, whether it's Switch not only being more successful than 3DS, but massively more so. And I know you can connect the console as well, but a lot of people play Switch primarily as a handheld. And if you look at Steam Deck, the way that has taken off, you know, who knows? Maybe this thing can find some success. Just like I said with the PlayStation handheld, I wouldn't go in expecting this to be a huge success by any means. But it is pretty cool. Like, it's a cool thing. We'll see if it's successful or not. But I would keep your expectations fairly low, just like the Sony handheld, in terms of being like a market shaker. But who knows? Maybe I could be wrong. All right. Real Radic, since Mario is a success, how quickly do you think Nintendo will greenlight not only sequels but spin-offs based off Donkey Kong and films based on other IP like Animal Crossing, Zelda, Kirby, etc.? Well, Real Radic, there is a report that Zelda is already in development. So it could already be greenlit. Let's find this report. This came out a little while ago. Yep, this came out back in January. There was a report in January that Zelda is already in development. I don't think this is officially announced, right? Because I just saw on Reddit it was officially... No, yeah, it's a rumor. So, yeah, supposedly that there's a Zelda one already coming. There's a report out there. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know. It's just a report. It wouldn't shock me, though. I think that Illumination and Nintendo would have already had a pretty strong idea what they had on their hands here in terms of box office success, because all you had to do is look at the social metrics. You know, I talked about that several times on my Twitter and several times here on the YouTube live chat, that the Mario movie put up unbelievable social media numbers. I'm not shocked at all. It's looking like this thing might make $1 billion. All you had to do was look at the YouTube trailer views, how massive this thing would blow up on Twitter in general. Like the pre-lead up, it was very obvious this was going to at least launch huge, and now the Nay Cinema Score will probably leg huge. Nintendo would have already had a very strong idea on the animation quality, because even the reviewers, the critics who did not like this movie, one thing that was basically universally praised across the board was that the animation is stunning in this movie. So Nintendo probably already were like, through the development of this process, like, wow, Illumination really can bring this to life in an amazing way. And they probably also had a very strong idea, wow, we're probably going to have a huge box office success here as well. Wouldn't shock me if the Zelda rumors are true, that they've already started development on a Zelda project, because these animated movies take a long time to make. Really long. In fact, a lot of times animated movies can take longer to make than live action. These big, huge animated movies. Not necessarily a small one, but these big ones, they can take quite a while to make. And wouldn't be shocked if they've already greenlit that. I think we'll have an announcement, whether it's Zelda or a Mario sequel, within the month. Wouldn't shock me in the next 4 weeks if you have an announcement that there's already another project coming. With the box office that this is going to have, now they might not date it, they might not do anything like that, but just like what Sony did with the Uncharted movie, which is a little weird, we've seen no update on that, but they said like 2 or 3 weeks after the movie was out. This is a new franchise for us. I think within the month, Real Radic, you will have Nintendo and Illumination confirm something. It might be very generic. It might not even be, hey, it's Zelda, or hey, it's the Super Mario sequel, but it might be, we're excited to work together in the future kind of thing, right? They'll want to capitalize on this momentum. I think you get something, some sort of hint or confirmation within the month, like within the next 4 weeks. Especially if this thing makes $1 billion, like I think it's going to, yeah. No one's going to sit on $1 billion movie and not hype that up and be like, hey, you loved that. There's more coming. It'll happen, especially if this hits $1 billion. All right. Oh, we haven't run any polls. Let's get started on a poll. I always forget to get these polls rocking earlier in the chat. My bad. I like doing the polls. All right, poll number 1, guys. Will Mario movie make $1 billion? Perfect timing. I got to start remembering to do these polls earlier. I always forget to do them too late. Yes and no. It's a simple question. Is the Mario movie going to make $1 billion? Poll number 1 is live in chat. Will Mario make $1 billion? I think it's very likely. Very likely. I wasn't sure until I saw that A Cinema score, and then I was like, yeah, it's going to happen. All right. We had a super chat come in. J2 Blue engage with a 5 super chat. Have you seen the Mario movie? If so, who is your favorite performance? I hate to say it, but I haven't gotten to see it yet, J2 Blue. I'm going to have to see this with my daughter, and I haven't gotten a chance to take her yet. So if this was a movie that like just I was interested in, then I would have seen it by now because, you know, I could just go to the movie theater whenever. But I got to plan it out with my daughter, and she has school, and I usually am closing at work, so I actually don't see my daughter much during the week. I know it's very sad, but I don't see her much on the week. So my goal is to get in to see it sometime soon, but it might not be for another few days, unfortunately. But my goal is to see it very, very soon. Very, very soon, J2 Blue Engage. But I hate to say it because you gave a super chat, but I have not been able to see it yet. So I can't comment on my favorite performance yet. I'll have to see the movie first. I've seen a lot of people say that, hey, Chris Pratt does a lot better than what people were, you know, kind of bashing him for. I kind of felt bad for Chris Pratt. I kind of feel bad for Chris Pratt in general, to be honest. I feel like he's a bit bullied online. And, you know, you could have your agreements or disagreements with Chris Pratt and the things he believes or not or whatever. But I don't get the vibe Chris Pratt's a bad guy at all. I kind of don't like how bullied he is on social media. You know, I don't really like to see that for most people. As long as you're not like a true scumbag, I don't really like the bullying. I'm not a big fan. And he gets bullied a lot. Not even just for Mario, just in general. You see people constantly bashing Chris Pratt. And I know it's easy to say, boo-hoo, he's a celebrity millionaire, he should be able to take it. But I just don't like it. I don't like the bullying. And I heard he does a pretty good job, right? That's what I'm hearing, at least. All right. Jason Task 98G. Bungie having Destiny as big as it is right now, and that's only one IP. $3.6 billion to cost to Sony to acquire them, and they have the rumored Marathon and the new IP before 2025. Some months ago, the director of Valorant joined Bungie, and they, according to job listings, have more projects in incubation. Do you think they're the closest studio, now owned by PlayStation, to be the next Blizzard? What I mean is that they will have Destiny, Marathon, a hero IP, and other games at the same time. And they want to expand to Amsterdam and double or triple size of their Washington studio. Destiny could be that. How big will Bungie be in 10 years? Yeah, I think I've actually used that exact wording on this chat before, Jason Task. It might have even been at a time when Dior was asking me. I think that saying Bungie could become Sony's Blizzard is a very great comparison. Now, does that mean that Bungie's going to be as big as Blizzard is? Because the reality is that as of now, Blizzard is still much bigger than Bungie, right? Even with as successful as Destiny is, Blizzard has multiple huge IPs. They have WoW, which is still massive. Whether it's as big as it was at its peak or not, that's debatable, but it's still massive. Diablo is still massive. Overwatch, for some reason, people think that like Overwatch 2 is dead. No, Overwatch 2 is huge. Still, months and months after launch, Overwatch is massive. So that's another huge IP for Blizzard. So, Bungie is definitely not at a Blizzard level yet. But I think that is very true. Like, that's a very strong comparison you can make if they can find some more successes. And that's a big if. They were very successful with Halo, but then they went from Halo to Destiny. Like, we've only seen them have one big IP at a time, whereas Blizzard has multiples, right? They've got WoW going. They've got Diablo going. They've got Overwatch going. We'll need to see Bungie have Destiny still being big, plus this new IP still being big at the same time. And yeah, I could very much see Bungie becoming Sony's Blizzard. And again, it doesn't necessarily mean, hey, Bungie's now bigger than Blizzard, but we're saying like a comparable. Yeah, I don't think that's that unrealistic. If their next IP in this marathon game are successful, though, that's the big if. That is very interesting that someone from Valorant joined the team, because that basically confirms what we've been hearing. And that is that, yes, it is a hero shooter, is their new IP. We've talked a bunch on this chat how the comparisons I've heard is to Overwatch. Now, it doesn't mean that it's going to look like Overwatch or even play like Overwatch, but that is like the very rough comparison that's been thrown around. Is it's an Overwatch type hero shooter. Again, guys, I'm not saying this is Overwatch. It could be literally nothing like it in terms of visuals or gameplay, but all rumblings and rumors are that it is indeed a hero shooter, and that's exactly what Valorant is. So that is very interesting. I actually missed that someone from Valorant team came over there. That very much lines up with what we've been hearing, that Bungie's new shooter is indeed a PvP hero game. I'm really excited for it, to be honest with you. I can't wait to see what they do with that. We had a super chat come in. We had a 5 super chat here from Highlander. Since Disney owns aliens, does this mean the alien queen, a evil Disney queen? I never thought about this. This is hilarious. And since they own MASH, does that mean Klinger a Disney princess? Oh my god, that is so funny, Highlander. That is a hilarious super chat. I never thought about it, but technically, they literally own Alien. Maybe now you could say the Alien Queen has joined the evil queens that we've seen so many times in the Disney princesses. I want to see this now. I want to see like how they'll put out like animated like things, like advertisement and t-shirts and stuff, and it'll have like the evil queens on it. We need to see one with the Alien Queen next to like Ursula. Oh my god, that's hilarious. I never thought about that, but you're kind of right. She, technically speaking, is an evil Disney queen. That is so funny. That is so funny. Great super chat and hilarious. All right, I want to highlight some member questions really quick. I'll get back to the regular free ones, but since we're doing members right now, I want you members to feel like you're getting some love. Let's focus, because I can see who's a member. Let's hit some of your guys' member questions. I'm going to go to you members and highlight you guys first, and then I'll go back to the free questions. Don't worry. But I want to start trying to do that. So people that are members, hey, you're paying to be a member. I want to start highlighting you and make sure you guys get your questions answered. Sam Rochter here, member question. Benji, do you think Sony is making a mistake by making a VR, a Pro, a handheld all at the same time and barely supporting the VR with new games? And a handheld that's remote play only. Are they too risky? Ooh, great question. Yeah, I kind of think so. I mean, if these rumors are to be believed, and again, if it was from a random source, I wouldn't really believe him, but Tom Henderson's pretty reliable. There's a lot of hardware coming. There's the regular PS5 right now. There's the PSVR 2. There's the PS5 with a detachable disc drive. There's a PS5 Pro. There's this new handheld. I mean, that's a lot of hardware to juggle if you're Sony. And I think a Pro would be pretty successful, and I think their regular system would be successful. But these other ventures, this, VR or PSVR 2, the indications we have are that PSVR 2 are not doing that well. And this handheld just seems very niche to me. So Sam Rockter, I would say that as much as I said earlier, I'm not that worried about Sony in terms of like just a future of being successful. I am a little worried that some of these other ventures are not going to pan out for them. So we'll see. We'll see. PSVR 2 really needs way more support, by the way. Way more. Like, that's a pretty big issue for them right now, in my opinion. So, Sam, it is a little interesting. Joseki, PlayStation is doomed, Ryan. Yeah, I know. Come on. The language he's using is a little strong. A little strong. The man has literally said basically multiple times they're doomed. All right. What other members we got? Highlander says that $5 billion is for all of Sony. Exactly, it is. But you have to imagine that a big chunk of that is for gaming, because gaming is like basically the most important part of Sony's business right now. That's one thing that makes them very different from Microsoft. Microsoft, Xbox is an important part of their business for sure. Xbox is a division that's generating billions of dollars now. So, they are an important part of Microsoft's business, but they're so small in compared to Microsoft's other ventures. What's interesting for Sony compared to them is that it's the exact opposite. Sony is like arguably the most important, or PlayStation, is arguably the most important part of Sony's business. So that $5 billion is absolutely for all of Sony. Some of that could be Sony Pictures, some of that could be Sony Music, but I do imagine that a large chunk of that $5 billion is targeted for gaming. I would imagine a very large chunk of it. I have no idea. This is spitballing, but if $5 billion is for everyone, I wouldn't be surprised if $3 to $4 billion of that is really for gaming. So I think they have a lot to spend. Heavy Shadow Sound, if Persona is multi-platform at launch, it'll definitely be huge. A Sony exclusivity lock is likely and huge. Yeah, it's definitely a good question. I do believe Persona 6 will be timed exclusive. I think that Persona 6 is definitely going to come to Xbox and Switch, by the way. Probably by then Switch 2, because Persona 6 isn't even announced yet. So I imagine that would be for the next Switch, though. With the way Persona works, it'll probably be on PS4 as well. It'll probably be a cross-gen game, so that might even be on Switch 1, to be honest with you. But I do think it'll be timed. I think Sony will have a year timed exclusivity on it. I agree, Heavy Shadow Sound. I think that's very likely that Sony will pay. I don't know that it's going to be as long as we've seen on some games. I don't know if it's going to be like, hey, this is timed exclusive for 2 to 3 years, but I think they'll have at least a 12-month timed exclusive on Persona 6. Highlander, do you think Sony is still thinking of selling off Sony Pictures? Well, that is the rumor in the industry, like including in the movie side of the industry. That is the rumors. I have no idea if that's going to be true or if that's going to play out, but there have been rumblings that Sony is looking at selling Sony Pictures. We'll see. I don't know if it will or not, but that is the rumblings, and there's some people that would probably be very interested in buying that, to be honest with you. So they could get a big cash influx. We'll have to see. But I could see Amazon wanting that. I could see Apple wanting that. There's some people I could totally see wanting that. Disney, but I don't think Disney would be allowed to buy it, to be honest with you. I think after the Fox acquisition, Disney's pretty much shut down on any other big acquisitions. But I could totally see Amazon or Apple going for that. Both of them have streaming services. And we saw Amazon buy MGM. So that's the word. Jacob Novik, Benji, do you think Xbox Series X could outsell PS5 before this gen ends, or at least get 100 million in sales? I think the first part may be likely. No, I think that they screwed themselves last year. I think it's done. I think the generation's actually already over in terms of first and second place. They lost a lot of momentum last year. I've talked about that. It's a bummer, but they really screwed themselves last year by releasing so few games and then seeing hardware completely collapse as it's been lately. Now, I'm just saying outselling PS5. I just literally can't see it. Now, could they get to 100 million sales? That's a high bar to me. I don't think it's crazy to think, though, that they could match 360. I actually don't, depending on how some of this exclusive software pans out. That's a big if. We need to see. But if Starfield's actually legit awesome, if Elder Scrolls 6 really does come this gen and it's exclusive and it's awesome, if something like Fable is a huge hit and it's actually awesome, if they really get Activision Blizzard and Blizzard has that new survival IP and let's say it's console exclusive and it's huge and awesome, like, I don't think it is actually crazy to think they could match 360 because I think they'll have a way stronger first party output than they actually had on Xbox 360. And didn't 360 finish right around 80 million? What was the final tally for their total sales? It was right around 80. Yeah, 85.7 is the final estimate on that, right around 85. I don't think it's actually crazy that they could hit 70 or 80 million. I think 100 million is very unlikely. I do expect PS5 over 100 million. I could see Xbox Series getting to 70 or 80 because Xbox One, which let's be real, there's just no way that this generation's first-party output will be anywhere near as bad as Xbox One's was. Xbox One was pretty dreadful. That doesn't mean that I don't think there were some awesome games on Xbox One, but if you just want to look at like for the whole generation as a whole, they really didn't have many exclusives, and that got over 50. So if their worst generation by far on output, they got over 50 million consoles. If they have a significantly stronger first-party output this gen, I think 70 to 80 is actually not a crazy thing to think, that they would increase their sales over that. But I don't see them outselling PS5, and 100 million is a pretty high bar to ask. It would be the best-selling Xbox of all time and the first one to ever hit over 100. I don't think we're there yet. I would need to see some very strong indicators. Here's what I'll say. Jacob, for Xbox, for me to have any faith that Xbox Series is going to hit 100 million sales lifetime, they're going to have a giga-gargantuan 2023 and even 2024. And there's no indications as of now that 2023 is playing out that way. Now, maybe the second half of the year, the hardware, just spins around and it's amazing. They didn't have a strong January. They didn't have a strong February. March doesn't look like it was very big either. So we'll see. But 70 to 80, I think, it's not impossible. All right, I'm going to wrap up the first poll. And it's overwhelming. 85% of you say the Mario movie is going to make $1 billion. Only 15% of you say no. I agree. We're on the same board. Overwhelmingly, you guys are on the $1 billion club. I am as well. I think it's very unlikely this movie misses $1 billion. Very, very unlikely. So now we're going to do the second poll of the chat. We're going to stream for about 15 more minutes. So the second poll, I'm just going to ask, are you interested in the new Sony handheld? Yes. Give me yes. We'll say yes. I want it. We'll see. Maybe. Need to see it first. And no, not interested. All right, let's see. Are you interested in the new Sony handheld? All right. I'm going to hit a few more of these member questions, and then I'll get back to the free ones. But like I said, I definitely want to make sure I can hit as many member questions as possible during these chats now. Jacob Benji, how will the live-action Minecraft look? Jason Momoa with a blue shirt and his haircut. Yeah, I don't know what to think about this. A Minecraft animated movie sounds genius to me. Like, an animated Minecraft I could see being huge. Look at how huge Mario is. Like, if we had that level of quality of animation, I'm not talking about the story, but the animation quality. If you had an incredibly amazing-looking Minecraft animated movie, I think it could be another $1 billion movie, honestly. A live action one, though, starring Jason Momoa, seems like a real weird sell. The director, I believe, is the director who did Napoleon Dynamite, which is pretty funny, actually. This gives me the vibe that it's going to like not remotely take itself seriously if that really is the director. I need to see a trailer, Jacob. This is one of those I gotta see a trailer because the concept, a live action Minecraft, already sounds a little weird. And then not only is it a live action Minecraft, but Jason Momoa's the star? That seems real weird. So I need to see it. This is one of those, though, that a trailer could be like really hilarious, like the Barbie trailer. I thought the Barbie trailer was amazing, by the way, the new Barbie trailer. If you would have told me before, Benji, do you have any interest in a live action Barbie movie? My response to you would be not even at all. I would say I have 0% interest in a live action Barbie movie. Then that second trailer I thought was hilarious. I thought it looked super funny. Now I actually really want to see that movie. This is like the exact same thing as the Barbie movie for me. On a concept level, a live action Minecraft starring Jason Momoa sounds like not that appealing to me. But it could be like a really good trailer, could totally sell me on it. I would have gone animated, but you know. Heavy Shadow Sound member question. Benji, any excitement for Hollow Knight? Silk Song is very palpable. It's the second most wishlisted game on Steam. Do you think we could see Silk Song Shadow Drop June 11th since it'll be on Game Pass? Oh, that is a very interesting thing. Could that be a Shadow Drop? Ooh. I'll actually say there's a chance of that because it's not a game they need to build hype for. You know what I mean? Like, it's there. Like you said, that the hype is already immense. And people have waited so long for it that I actually feel like that could be a highly successful Shadow Drop. Because you don't even really need to market Silk Song any more than it already has. It's, like you said, it's the second most wishlisted game on Steam. Like, people are very aware of Silk Song. That'd be genius, actually, Heavy Shadow Sound. Sometimes I'm like, I don't know if a Shadow Drop's a good idea. That would be a genius Shadow Drop. I think it would be massive as a Shadow Drop. Like, if they're just like, hey, we know you guys have waited forever for Silk Song. We've hardly shown or talked about anything. You can play it today, or you can play it tomorrow, or whatever. I think no matter what, it will release very soon after, if it is at Microsoft Show, which I think we're thinking it probably will be since it's a Game Pass game. If it's not a Shadow Drop, I do think it'll be soon. Like, I think it's launching in a month or 2 months. I don't think it'll be far. So, but a Shadow Drop, I like that idea. Joseki member question. Persona 5 released in September 2016, by the way. Back then, we didn't even have a single trailer about the Switch console. To give some context of how big the wait for Persona 6 has been, possibly more than one gen. Yeah, it's a great point. Yeah, there's no way it's releasing this year. I agree with JCat. No way Persona 6 is releasing this year. Yep, no way. Announced, yeah, I could see it, but there's no way it's coming out this year. No way. And yeah, it's been a long wait for Persona 6. Crazy. So it's a great thing to point out, Joseki. That is crazy. I didn't even realize that. We didn't even have a trailer about the Switch console. Wow. You know, I hadn't really thought about it, but you're right. That's crazy. They've got to speed up the releases on these games. Atlas is so slow on Persona. So slow. Okay. That's most of the member questions I'm going to highlight there for now. Thank you so much, members. Thank you so much, guys. I'm going to make sure every chat to try to hit members as much as possible. I'm going to hit a few more free questions, and then we're going to bounce. Marvel Fanatic, I'm afraid that Disney absorbed Marvel Entertainment. The gaming division Marvel Games will cease to exist, and Bill Rosman and other employees will be let go, and Marvel Games will become Disney Interactive. News says Marvel Entertainment got absorbed into Disney. What does that mean for a Marvel Games division? Do you think they will become still be an entity? Oh, man, that's a great question. Marvel Fanatic, I don't have a great answer for this on you. I hope that they don't let go of Bill Rosman. He seems very, very cool. He follows me on Twitter. Seems like a great guy. I know he's got a ton of love for Marvel. That'd be a big mistake. They better not let Bill Rossman go. I missed the story, actually. I hope it doesn't impact the gaming division, and I definitely hope it doesn't hurt Bill Rosman because, like I said, he seems like very passionate about Marvel and a good guy. Blazing Flame, Benji Boy, what do you think we will see more of KOTOR remake? Well, that basically had to restart development. When do you think it will release? Could KOTOR 2 get remade if the first is successful? I do think that there's a chance they could remake the second one if the first is successful, but the first one had development hell issues and basically had to restart development. So, when do I think we'll see it? I don't even think we'll actually see this game until next year. And when do I think it'll release? This might not be until 2025. Like, I'm not joking, because the rebooted development. So I think it's quite a ways off, Blazing Flame. Like I said, I don't even think we see it this year. Would love to be wrong, but I don't even think we see this game shown this year. And I wouldn't expect it to release until 2025. Like, I wouldn't expect this game for another 2 years. I think we had a super chat coming in towards the end. Benji with a super chat with a 5. Hi, Benji. Tom Henderson is saying Sony's expecting to sell 10 million PS5 in Q3 2024. It's an impressive number, but maybe lower than expected. Benji, I'm going to be cautious. As much as I believe Tom Henderson's reports on the hardware front, I'm going to be cautious on believing some of the stuff he's putting out there about PlayStation forecasts. That doesn't mean that I think that he is wrong about these PlayStation forecasts, but I'm going to be very cautious until we get official numbers from Sony. So that is one I'm just going to be honest with you, Benji. I'm personally, again, this is no offense to Tom Henderson, because I think he does great work. I'm just not going to put much stock in a leaked forecast number. That could mean anything. Even if he did see something that really did say that, until they actually make a forecast, that I don't really have any reason to believe anything. So I'm just going to wait. I'm going to hold off, Benji, on that one until I see the actual forecast. Now, if that was true, that actually would be a bit lower than I would expect. What did they hit Q3 of their last fiscal year? You're saying fiscal Q3, right? So their holiday? Wasn't it 7 something? Pretty sure it was 7 something. Pulling it up right now. Their last Q3 fiscal was, I was right, 7.1. So going from 7.1 to 10. Forcado says, how is that low? 10 million in 1 quarter is insane. It is, but it's the holidays. Holidays should be insane. So I'm assuming Benji means Q3 of fiscal year, which is the holiday one. They hit 7.1 last year. This would be with Spider-Man, we're assuming. I mean, they might be somewhat conservative and do 10. 10 is, again, huge, but if they did 7.1 last year, we should expect growth next year. We'll see. I'm not going to put a ton of weight behind it until I actually see the forecast, but it wouldn't shock me if they go at 10, because that would still be 3 million over last year, you know what I mean? Still growth, quite a bit of growth. And Benji has also become a supporter. Thank you so much, Benji. That's 10 members this chat. Thank you so much, guys. I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if anyone would join or not. We got 10 members this chat. Thank you so much, Benji, for becoming the 10th one. We got about 7 minutes of chat left. So thank you, guys, to all the members. Thank you for the people that gifted memberships like Split End and Ken B. You guys are awesome. You guys are awesome. You're awesome. You're awesome. And if the memberships keep going up, we'll see. But like I said, we might have some fun and do some more stuff with the memberships in the future. Right now, I'm just doing the basic tier. But, maybe we can add some more fun stuff to them moving forward if it's successful. Travel Peck, gladly Activision didn't acquire Bungie a while ago. Yeah, that thank God, to be honest. That was a toxic relationship. I'm pretty sure Activision wanted to acquire Bungie. Could you imagine? Activision would have Blizzard King, Activision Pub, and Bungie. Whoa. Bungie was the last independent big studio out there with the possible future of becoming a publisher with the Matter IP. And now with the Marathon Tarkov game leaked by Grubb and Henderson, I think Sony did a good job in acquiring them. I don't see other studio with those big future possibilities becoming publisher CD Projekt. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, outside of that, it's hard to say. Yeah, besides Bungie. CD Projekt, of course. But, yeah, no, thank God that they didn't become part of Activision because that was a toxic relationship. They kind of hated each other by the end of it. I know that for a fact. Activision, that wasn't always the case, but by the end of that, that would have been a very bad acquisition between those two if that would have happened. They did not like one another. So, yes, I agree. I agree with Travel Pack. It's a good thing that that didn't happen. I don't think Bungie would be in as good of a spot as they are right now if Activision would have acquired them. Yoda Soda, Benji, do you think it is possible that PlayStation could partner with Lucasfilm Games and start making PlayStation exclusive Star Wars titles, especially if KOTOR Remake is received well? I absolutely think that's possible. Look at Spider-Man, and I know Spider-Man's Marvel, but that's all Disney. And they've got Spider-Man as an exclusive. So, Yoda Soda, I absolutely think it's possible, yes. If the KOTOR Remake is really well received, and let's say Spider-Man 2 is a huge hit, which we already know it will be, and let's say Wolverine's a huge hit, Disney's going to really like seeing Sony as a partner. So, yeah, it wouldn't shock me at all, Yoda Soda. You could absolutely see an exclusive Star Wars game on PlayStation. I don't know if you would see a Sony studio themselves make it, like we're seeing with Spider-Man and Wolverine. It would just depend. But an exclusive outside of KOTOR, like more of them, yeah, I don't think that's impossible at all. It's very clear that Sony and Disney are getting along real well. Cookie Cutter, if 2K and LEGO have a partnership for many LEGO games, does that mean the LEGO partnership with Traveler's Tales games could be in limbo? Do you think Traveler's Tales will continue to make LEGO games? Is their future with LEGO is bright? I do think that it was in jeopardy for sure. I think Skywalker Saga kind of saved them. Skywalker Saga is the fastest selling LEGO game of all time. I do think that you will see them make another LEGO game. Now, you know, is it as good of a relationship as it once was? I think that's somewhat doubtful. We know that there was a lot of canceled LEGO games. We also know that, you know, that relationship, like, you know, they went to other publishers now making LEGO games as well. So I do think, let's say Skywalker Saga would have bombed. Yeah, that might have been the end of it. Like, honestly, if Skywalker Saga bombed, I don't know if they would want to continue that relationship. But after seeing that become the most successful, fastest selling LEGO game of all time, I think they've definitely earned themselves another opportunity to make another LEGO game. So yeah, I think you'll definitely see at least another, you know, couple from them for sure. Ghost Tunnels, is Indiana Jones going to be Xbox exclusive? Could we see or hear more about it, and when could it be released? I expect you're going to see it at this coming E3. It would be good timing with the movie, because when is the Dial of Destiny out? It's this summer. Is it June, actually? I think it is. Or is that May? It's June 30th. Yeah, you're going to see it at this E3. It would just be perfect timing. It'd be, you know, free advertisement for the upcoming Indiana Jones movie. Microsoft and Bethesda showcase is June 11th. Indiana Jones Dial of Destiny comes out June 30th. That would just be a massively missed marketing opportunity between the two to not have it there. It's been in development for years now. When was that announced? Was that back in like 2020? I want to say that got announced back in 2020. Or it was 2021. So it would still be 2 years after its announcement. So yeah, I think you see it in June. Now, when's it going to be released? I don't know. But I think you see it in June at the Xbox Bethesda showcase. Drift23, do you think there's a chance that Activision and Capcom could make a deal with Marvel to bring back old Marvel titles to modern consoles? Also, do you think Capcom's next fighter could be Marvel vs. Capcom 4? I do think that they are going to make another Marvel vs. Capcom game. I know that might be surprising to some people because Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite bombed so bad, but that looks like it was going to bomb from like the day they announced it. The fighting game community was not happy with that game, like even from the initial reveal. People were hyped that there was going to be a new Marvel vs. Capcom game, but I remember immediately seeing reactions from the fighting game community hating its art style. And I think there's still a lot of success they could have with a true Marvel vs. Capcom 4 and literally call it that, Marvel vs. Capcom 4. I think that does happen, Drift23. Now, is that their next fighter? I don't know about that, but will there be Marvel vs. Capcom 4? I would put the odds at like 90+%. I absolutely think it's going to happen at some point. And they just need to really make its art style and everything a lot more appealing to that audience that loves the old Marvel vs. Capcom games. Infinite had a way different art style, one that they didn't really like. And I know that a lot of people had issues with the way it played as well. It wasn't, I think, what that community wanted out of Marvel vs. Capcom. So I do think it happens. Like I said, I put the odds over 90% it happens at some point, but I don't know when. All right, we're almost done. I'm going to do like 1 or 2 questions and I'm going to be gone. Deadly 8, do I think Xbox will start to compete with PlayStation and make Star Wars and Marvel games exclusives? I would say pretty unlikely because it sounds like Marvel tried and Microsoft said no. That is a report that came out a while back, and I think it wasn't even like a rumor. It was like confirmed because it was in some sort of like I don't remember where the source of that was, but it was something about the development maybe of Spider-Man or something like that, or it was like a tell-all book about Marvel or something like that, and they said they approached Microsoft about possibly making a game, and Microsoft said no. So I'd be pretty surprised. You never know, but it seems Microsoft doesn't have much interest in that. Benji says, it seems the Mario movie's up to an impressive start with $1 billion in play at the box office. Any other video game franchises with $1 billion potential in your opinion? Other ones that can make $1 billion. Well, like I said, I think a Minecraft animated movie had a real shot at $1 billion. Minecraft's massive, but I don't know about a live action one. I don't think a live action Minecraft can make $1 billion. But an animated one, I think, really had a shot at it. This is going to sound hilarious, but Fortnite. Fortnite actually has its own characters. I know we always think of Fortnite as all of the, various characters that come in, like, Geralt's in and John Wick's in, but, like, it has its own universe and its own characters. Guys, you can't undersell how big Fortnite is, especially with the younger demographic. If it was like a really awesome Fortnite movie, I'll be honest, I don't have a lot of interest in that, but there are millions, especially of younger people, that would love to see a Fortnite movie. So Fortnite absolutely has potential. It doesn't mean it's a lock, but yeah, Fortnite, if it was a good Fortnite movie, it absolutely has potential to make $1 billion. So Minecraft, Fortnite, man, there's not a ton others that I think billion. There's a ton others I can think of successful, but $1 billion is a high number, guys. I don't think League of Legends. I know League of Legends is, again, massive, but I don't know that a League movie would make $1 billion. Yeah, those are the two that stand out. An animated Minecraft movie or Fortnite. I'm sure there's some others that might, but those are the two that immediately jump out to me. Logan Hardy, Benji, how important is this upcoming PS5 showcase for PlayStation in your opinion? It is massively important. They really need to go all out on this next PlayStation showcase. They've been quiet for way too long. We know way too little about what's going on at Sony first party. It needs to be a full-on unload the barrels kind of showcase. Not like, oh, we got like 2 cool announcements and, it's going to be like a quick, 40-minute. No, this needs to be an hour plus, massive showcase, massive first party announcements. Really just for the sake of in keeping their audience engaged. We talked about how amazing PlayStation 5 hardware sales are, and they're amazing. But they really need to engage with that fan base who is like, what in the heck is going on at PlayStation? Because nothing's hardly announced. We know barely anything about PlayStation right now in terms of first party output. So they need to go all out. Logan Hardy needs to be huge, a huge showcase. One of the biggest they've ever done is what it needs to be. I'm talking, they need like not one or two big first party announcements. They need 3, 4, or 5 big first party announcements. Guillermo Lima says hello from Brazil. Guilherme, hello to you in Brazil. Dangerman says, I hope you're okay. I'm all right, man. I did get jacked up falling off a ladder, but I'm all right. All right, I think I'm going to have to call it there. Let me make sure I didn't miss any super chats. The final results on the poll, by the way. Oh, yeah. We have 2 super chats coming in right at the end. 2 from Joseki. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 DLC released before July. H2 is empty for Big N. Yeah, I know. It is interesting. And JCat says, what about Pikmin 4 in July? But yeah, that's about it. Joseki, again, I think they're announcing the Switch this year. The Switch 2. I don't think it's coming out this year. But I think Switch 2 is launching next year, and I think they're going to announce it this year. I think there's a real chance they announce it actually in their when their fiscal year ends, whenever they report their fiscal year's totals. Now, again, whenever I said they announce it, I think it might very well be how the Switch was originally announced, where it was just a concept. And I don't think you're going to see them big trailer. Here's Switch 2, and here's all the games and anything like that. I do not think that you're going to see that. But you might, if it's going to come this next fiscal year, so if it's going to come by March 2024, which I think there's a chance of, I think you may see Nintendo put that out there for investors, again, with very little details, but be like, we're launching new hardware this fiscal year. So you never know, man. It is interesting, Joseki. It is very interesting. I do think it's coming in 2024 no matter what. I don't think they can wait till 2025. The latest this thing needs to come out late 2024. Highlander with a 2 super chat right before we end. Can we have a moment of silence for the loss of E3? It is a bummer. RIP to E3. It will be missed. But yeah, it ain't coming back. I don't think so. There's some people that have been like, maybe they can find a way to do it, but again, this was the year. If it was coming back, I feel like this was the year that it would have had to have happened. And I'd still love to see it come back. I would love to see it come back because I loved E3 at its peak, but I think it's done. So rest in peace to E3. I never got to cover it in person. That was always a dream of mine, that I'd get to go to E3 in person, and it never happened. All right, the final results of the poll before we go. I asked if you're interested in the Sony handheld, and these results do not surprise me. I said this thing sounds real niche. Only 12% of you just flat out want it. 31% of you, so a decent amount. You need to see it first. Maybe they could sell you on seeing it, but over half, 56% have no interest. So 56% of you are just flat out, from the description, not interested at all. Only 12% are already fully sold, with 31% needing to see it. So if this thing is real and it does launch, they're going to have to really have some strong selling points on it to get people on board, because again, small sample size here, but I think this would honestly extrapolate to most of the market. I think the overall interest would be very low on this thing. All right, guys, thank you so much. Thank you to the 10 members that joined. This was day 1 of membership, so thank you to the 10 of you that joined. I'm always going to make sure to highlight you guys every single chat. I appreciate it so much. Thank you for Split End for gifting memberships. Thank you for Ken B for gifting a membership. Everyone, subscribe to the channel if you're not already. We do 1 of these chats every single week. Some weeks there will be 2 chats if it's a big news week. Like the video if you haven't. It helps the YouTube algorithm. And follow me on Twitter if you're not already. I'm Benji-Sales. That's where I am most active. You guys can always join at any point in time. So if anyone's watching this video after the fact and they're like, oh, I want to join, you absolutely can. However, if you join during a live stream, I will give you guys a shout out. I won't be able to give you a shout out if you join afterwards in between streams, but you can always join. It's always there for you. You can just click the button if you decide to join memberships. All right, guys, stay safe, play some games. I will catch you either on Twitter here very, very soon, or I will catch you on YouTube next week for next week's live chat. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day, great evening, wherever you are. Bye, 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 bye. Peace, bye.